Well, good evening.
What's up, buddy?
How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. As usual, as live streams go, there's always something to deal with at the beginning of the show or midstream. Never happens at the end of the show, does it?
Never, ever.
Never happens at the end.
Oh, it always goes great.
So we're coming on about 5 minutes late, but that's okay. We have a faithful following.
Right.
That
we have an exciting guest, I think, tonight.
Yeah. Well, let's wait for people to come into the live stream.
Little background.
Well, while we're doing that, let me make an announcement. Someone sent me a text. 1 week from tonight at the Harvey Room at the Town Hall, there's a meeting for the the variance committee, right?
Yeah, the appeals board.
The appeals board, yeah.
Yep.
The subject is the building next to Nick's at 5 Fremont, at the corner of 5 Fremont and Pauline.
Oh,
it's at 7 o'clock, but there's no agenda posted.
Yeah.
I guess they called in the developers, but no one knows why. And they're not saying it on, imagine that. It's not on the town website. Gee, that's different.
You're mean.
Come on, it's 2022. They really don't seem to care, which is bad because we're all about transparency and they don't seem to want to be. So, and somebody's going to be in charge of that. Is it the town council president, town manager, police chief, anybody?
Everybody's responsible to get their agendas and all the information to the town clerk. I'm going to say this because it is true. The town clerk's wearing many hats. That being said, I understand the frustration.
Yeah. People want to know.
People want information. It's unfortunately, it's only a small handful. I wish it was more.
But it's a week from tonight. Yeah, exactly. It's a week from tonight, 7 o'clock at the Harvey Room. Is there a town council meeting this week?
No, they just had one. But the next one's going to be important. I forget the agenda, but it's not us. We're coming up too. But I'm sure they'll be deliberating the ordinance review stuff probably next week.
Was that flag proposal put out?
That's on the agenda. That's it. Yep. The flag proposal supposedly on the agenda.
For the next town council meeting?
Yeah.
It's got to be coming up soon, isn't it?
Well, here's the thing. It's the agenda has to be finalized and decided, and the final agenda is not out. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Sounds good. So who do we have on tonight?
So we have Caroline Colarusso, who is a senator, candidate for senator, for U.S. Senator out of the Mass 5 district. She can explain better than I can all of the communities involved. I know, obviously, Winthrop is one of them. She's going against a powerhouse here in Massachusetts, Catherine Clark. She's got a huge uphill climb, and that's kind of one of the big reasons I've been pushing this a lot, and everyone I talk to, just asking them to give her an ear. And here's the reason why I want her on here, and I want her to win. Not just because she aligns with a lot of my views, but because she aligns with things that I want done that need to be done in Massachusetts. For instance, an infrastructure bill. Maybe we could finally get one done in Washington if we had more people focusing on that than focusing on getting fake arrested like Catherine Clark did in Washington because she's protesting Roe v. Wade, which Roe v. Wade
all virtue signaling. It's all, they're good at that.
Zero bearing on the town on the community of Massachusetts. She is constantly fighting. Catherine Clark is jockeying to be the next Nancy Pelosi, because all she can do is fight for the big social issues that Massachusetts has well in hand. But I want to let her come on and tell her story, because I think it's a good one. And I do hope that the listeners who keep us going will share this out, and we'll talk her up if they like what they hear. So without any ado, let's bring her on. Hi, Carolyn.
Hey, Caroline.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I hope your listeners are tuning in tonight, but I want to comment first of all. I was a select woman for 2 terms here in Stoneham, where I live.
That's right.
And I sense the frustration that I'm hearing from you gentlemen this evening about the lack of transparency, the open meeting law, what needs to be posted. You know, it's very difficult to navigate through local government and to really understand what's going on. And when I was on the Board of Selectmen, that's one of the complaints that I heard all the time. And I really appreciate that you guys even care, because so many people in town are so busy, and there's meeting after meeting, right? There's Board of Selectmen, there's Board of Appeals, there's every different board and committee. And it's really a lot to follow. And I just commend you for the work that you're doing on this live stream, and that you do to communicate to the people of Winthrop, because if you don't get involved in your local government, it's never good. You need to really be involved.
Well, it's funny. That's our thing. Like, all politics starts at the local level, and in my opinion, that's where it stops. I mean, your position matters to us. The spot you're running for matters to us in a very different way than it matters to the person currently holding it, and to some of the ideologues that reside in the state of Massachusetts. So I hope you are prepared to give our listeners an earful of your goodness. And I hope what few minutes I gave you in terms of my synopsis was accurate. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I'm running for Congress, which is the House, and it is not a statewide. That's okay. It's confusing. There are 22 communities that I'm running in, Winthrop obviously being one of them. They divide up the districts and they gerrymander. So the district recently did change, but there are 22 communities, and Winthrop again is well, I have relatives in Winthrop. The people that own Viking Oil were my cousins, and I spent a lot of time as a young girl. They had a swimming pool up on Upland Road, and they would invite us over, so I would go there frequently, and the beach front was right down at the end of the street. It was just a lot of fond memories there in Winthrop with my grandparents. Again, I was really small, but I have been out to the district several times in running for this seat, and I'll be there next Monday evening. We're having an event at Aaliyah's Restaurant at 6 p.m., a fundraiser in Winthrop. So I hope that you guys will come down if you're not busy at your meeting. It sounds like you might have a conflict that night.
I'll be in Maine, so.
And I'm in Boca Raton, Florida. So.
Yeah. He's an expat. He's an expat to Winthrop, but don't worry. We're going to push this thing.
Oh no, I still have a lot. I still have roots.
Guys, that I was a select woman, and I was elected 2 terms back to back. And in my community of Stoneham, as does Winthrop, kind of mimics the state breakdown for political affiliation, which is most people, almost 60% are independents. They have about 9 or 10% Republican, and then the rest are Democrat. And I was elected and reelected here in Stoneham. And I wasn't elected and reelected here because I didn't do my job. I had to work with people that were across the aisle, maybe didn't think the way I did all the time. But, you have to kind of put those differences aside and do what's best for the community or the people that you represent. And I don't see any of that taking place in Congress whatsoever. I see people, as you mentioned, jockeying for position, taking their marching orders, and not doing what's right for the people in the district. And it's disturbing to me, because I've never been beholden. While I am a conservative, no one has ever told me how to vote. I've never been told you must vote this way. So I don't know what that feels like. And honestly, part of me, I feel sorry for Catherine Clark, because I feel as if she is being told what to do all the time, regardless of the policy, and she votes lockstep and barrel with Nancy Pelosi and whatever Joe Biden wants. And I don't think that's a good thing for the district, and I certainly don't think it's a good thing for the country.
Right.
She toes the party line.
Yeah, she does.
You know? And unfortunately, there's too many politicians that do that in Congress and in Senate. They toe that party line. They don't care. They get what they want. They get their little kudos. They get their little benefits, their little perks, their little elbow rubbing, their little insider trading information. But that's a whole nother story.
Go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
So what made you want to run for this seat? Like, what was the catalyst?
So I recognize what's taking place in our country. And I grew up in the North End of Boston. My father could not speak English. My grandparents spoke broken English. And they came here and they built a life for themselves. They achieved the American dream. We never didn't have a meal on the table or a roof over our head. And they were satisfied and content in the work of their hands. I was fortunate enough with my husband, I've been married to Joe for 32 years, we have 3 children, to achieve that same American dream. Own a piece of property, put a little nest egg aside in your 401k, take a family vacation, drive a decent car, have a good job. I am deeply concerned that that American dream is slipping away from my children and certainly my children's children. And, it's one thing to have problems in a country. We have to deal with problems that we have in a country. It's a different thing to cause problems in a country. Things were going really well up until the Joe Biden presidency. Really, really well. And they took a nosedive. And they took a nosedive because of the policies that his administration is putting forth. And when you have a complicit Congress and you have a president who's making decisions that actually hurt the American people, that is a lot for people to overcome. And I want to stay here in Massachusetts. I like it here. I like where I live. My children live nearby. My son just got engaged last weekend. He's going to be getting married. He just bought a house here. I just want to be able to live here and have it be affordable and have my children have the same things that I had. And quite frankly, a lot of that's in jeopardy the way things are going.
Absolutely.
So Caroline, I'm a big believer in the American dream. I think it has different meanings to different people these days. To me, years ago, it was basically being able to self-determine your happiness and live your life the way you see fit. And I tend to agree with you that we have gotten away from that. And to me, the biggest problem Scott will attest to this. Anyone will attest to this. Education is my hot button. And I know you are a proponent of school choice. I'd be curious to hear if you have any insights into if school choice isn't the option in the middle ground, might be making our existing public schools better, especially the ones, frankly, that are heavily unionized. Because candidly, that's the problem. Shoot, go. I'm interested to hear what you got.
What a great question. So with regard to school choice, I mean, if you even look back at what happened during COVID, and you saw some of the medical mandates that were placed on students where the parents weren't able to decide what was best, that was very troubling. The Boston Globe last week reported that there's been a 12% exodus, even in communities like Wellesley, from the public school system, simply because of issues that relate to mandates, inappropriate sex education, and the politicizing of the classroom. And I actually agree with you, Todd, about the special interest groups inserting themselves in. I don't have as much hope as you do with things turning around, okay? Would I like to? All my kids went to public schools in Stoneham. Every one of my boys, we have three sons. However, because of how the teachers' unions have some of these politicians really essentially generating policy, for the public school classrooms, I call them government schools. I'm not sure how we can change that unless the administration changes and the Congress changes. Now, having said that, school choice, federal vouchers are a great way to combat some of that. Because what drives performance?
Competition.
Competition, right? It drives performance. So right now, I couldn't afford to send my kids to private schools, so they went to public schools. A lot of people are in that position. But if we can make it affordable in terms of school vouchers, tax credits, things that we can do to incentivize the competition, people would be able to choose. Now, because of that alone, performance would improve in public schools because there would be competition. It's not the only game in town. Right now, instead of politicizing the kids, we should be focusing on STEM issues. I mean, we need future scientists. We need future people that can do anything. And we don't have that now because what we have is we have education that has been politicized and the bar has been lowered. It's been lowered. In other countries, it's going to be harder to compete with other countries that focus on education instead of the United States, which is focusing on politicizing the classroom. One thing that really gets my goat is the Department of Justice. What happened with those school board moms? You guys opened up this show by saying that you want to go to a local meeting. Parents, more than any other group, should be able to attend meetings without intimidation, without having to worry about the Department of Justice or any of those types of things. And look what was found out with regard to Merrick Garland's Department of Justice. The parents were targeted, conservative parents that were in there objecting to what was going on. That's un-American. That's inherently wrong to do that. And that's what we have again with this administration. And look at Catherine Clark has a role in this, and she has a responsibility in this. When these types of things happen, she has to decide who she's going to stand up for. Okay? And even on this meeting this evening, I would strongly urge Congresswoman Clark to advocate for the parents in the district and to begin to talk to the parents and just really listen to what they have to say. I've been contacted by numerous different groups in this race. The most disgruntled group are parents. They are really, really upset. They don't feel like anyone's listening or paying attention to them. And that's really, really sad.
Well, I mean, I certainly felt that way. And my frustration came out full bore right here in Winthrop. And I'm sure, well, my brother lives on the west coast of Florida. And at one point I was getting phone calls from him going, "What are you doing?" And I said, if your kids were being treated the way my kids are being treated right now, you do the same thing. That being said, I want to get back because I understand. I am a proponent of vouchers. I am. But I've never gotten a good answer to this question. You can give the family the money to move their kid to a different school. Transportation in the lower income families becomes an issue. Do you have any insight into that and getting those kids? Because let's face it, as bad as the public schools are with the things they're doing and getting in between parents and kids, those of us of means, and I'm hand to mouth right now myself, but those of us who've been able to make it are making sure our kids are making it no matter where they are. Some people don't see it and they don't get involved, and some people just can't. So I'm sorry for dragging that question out, but I really want to get your take on that.
It's a great question. So with regard to government schools or public schools, the demographics that are most impacted by that are the ethnic communities, are the Black and Hispanic communities. And generally, you're absolutely right. Transportation can be a problem. However, it can't be an obstacle. Okay. So if there are, just as right now, the charter schools, the kids in my town that attend the charter school or attend the Voc, they all cluster, they meet at a bus stop, and all those kids are then transported. This is not rocket science. It's not that difficult to figure out. I will tell you what is going to hinder getting them to the right school that their parents choose is the price of gasoline. That's going to hinder them because many parents, you ask parents, if you say, we're going to give you a choice, you can take your child to the school of your choice. Parents are going to move mountains to get their child to the school that they want. Why? Because it's about their child's future. So they'll make it happen. They'll get up 2 hours early. But if they have to drive and it's going to cost them money, more money, it's already costing them money to get back and forth to work. So when we have, the high price of gasoline complicates everything, right? It complicates everything, the cost of transportation, but it can't be an obstacle. There has to be a way to move these kids over. And you know what? If the charter school cap was lifted in Massachusetts, you would see more charter schools in more areas. As a result, they would be more accessible to people. Right now, there's a cap in Massachusetts. So there's only so many. Why? Because people don't want the competition. Why? I had a man contact me. He lives in Stoneham. He said, I'm so mad about what's going on in our town, different things. And I understood. And he said, but I can't move because my son is at the charter school and he's thriving there. And I don't want to take him out of that school. So, I totally understand. And I think it's time, after COVID, I think people are much more receptive to school choice. I think it's time. We just need people that are going to move the needle, that are going to go to Congress and say, hey, even if it's a test program, even if it's not the full population, but there are families that want to test the program. There's so many test programs. School choice is the ultimate test program. It should be tried. People should vet it.
That's a good point. And what do you say to those who say, well, the more charter schools you open, the more money you're siphoning off of school districts?
I say to those people, when has it ever been about money when it comes to a child's education? I mean, we see, especially at the town level, there's so much money being spent on so many different things. The two biggest complaints I got as a select woman, two of them, the water bill and the roads. And no matter how much we raised the water rates, they always went up. And no matter how much we put towards roads, the roads were never good. What I think needs to happen is there needs to be accountability. So whatever the program is, whether it's school choice or a road repair program, whatever, there needs to be someone looking at these programs and evaluate. I was an operations manager for over 25 years. We tried so many different things, but you have to go back and you have to evaluate these programs. Are they working? Are they not working? Why aren't they working? How can we improve them? Okay. When was the last time we saw cities and towns or the state do that? Why do we pay so much per mile of road repair, more than New Hampshire does? Same weather, their roads are great. We need more accountability. When I was on the select board, there would be the utility companies that would come in and we would grant them the permits to do the work. But in that agreement, it said, and you must restore this road back to what it was. Do you know what I found out? That no one was reviewing that or holding the utility companies accountable. Nobody was checking off that box. A simple check, hey, this is supposed to be done. So with every government program, regardless of what program it is, there needs to be someone looking at those outcomes and evaluating those outcomes. What politicians like to do, I'm sorry, like my opponent, they like to tout all the programs that they're pushing, but are they really effective? Are they really working? I lowered the water rate. I was one person trying to lower the water rate in Stoneham. Okay, we lowered the water rate, not 1 year, 2 years in a row.
Can you please run for something locally here? Move to Winthrop.
Move to Winthrop.
All we did was evaluate the water funds, and your audience, if it's a local audience, I'm going to share this, and I don't want to, get off topic, but the water rates are housed in what's called an enterprise fund.
Yep.
That enterprise fund is governed under state law. It can only be used for direct and indirect water expenses. Okay? People need to follow that money and find out where that money's being asked for the expenditures and ask for the receipts. And everything's a process. Just look at it, because sometimes that money can be spent on things other than what it's designated for under Mass General Law. We lowered the water bills 2 years in a row. I got off the board. The first thing that happened, the water bills went up. Why? Simple. No one was looking at it. Nobody was questioning it. You have to question your local government, your state government, and your federal government. As painful and as long-suffering as it can be, you must hold those people accountable.
Well, we actually have a guy. He's a big contributor to the show. He comes on frequently. His name is Kurt Millar. He is a bulldog with a hound dog's nose. And he digs into those, and he's coming up with some interesting stuff. See, he just commented in. Kurt Millar says, water rates, my pet peeve. This guy, I said, he's a bulldog with a hound dog nose. He digs into those funds. He's already found some questionable stuff, just say for lack of a better term. Yeah. So yeah, we do have that problem in Winthrop. Absolutely.
We do. And not to spend too much time on this topic, but it's a big one. Cause you're absolutely right. One of the things, and I didn't do this audit myself, but it was requested. So our DPW department, the guys work on DPW projects, and they also work on mass water projects. There's supposed to be an hours allotted to each line. And there's not a lot of that's where some of it might be too. I mean, we had leakage. We had to borrow a lot of money to do repairs that weren't done for decades. The Center Business District, what a lot of people don't understand is the money we had to borrow, right? However that works, it goes into your water rate. And it's not all the taxpayers, it's just the ratepayers paying it. It's not even the taxpayers. It's just, you own a house, you paying. So when you started talking saving money about what is it, 12,000 people's ears went, what?
All you have to do is drive around. Every lawn is yellow. Why?
Can't afford the water.
They're already getting crushed with inflation. They're getting crushed at the gas pump. Local taxes are going up. These people can't water my lawn is yellow. It's out front. This is the first year my lawn has been yellow. Our wallets are being raided by too many different things, and we have to choose. The basic necessities of life, they come first. You have to pay your mortgage. You have to pay your taxes. You have to live with a yellow lawn. You live with it because that water bill's coming, and you do what you have to do. But you just need people to look at those accounts, and you need to ask for the payroll too. You need to find out, each payroll in the system has different, they call them pay locations.
Yeah.
I study the water really well. I know it well. And you look at those pay locations, and they designate where that person's being paid out of. And there should be a balance there. Cemetery, roads, and water. There should be a balance. But in the middle of a snowstorm, when everyone's working on the snow, nobody should be being paid out of water. So that's a good way to look at it.
You taking notes? That's good. Hey, never mind. Skip it. Keep going. You're stealing the show.
Caroline, what are your top 3 issues that you would go after when you get elected?
Well, I have to say, it would have to be the economy. It would have, the border, and likely election integrity. Those are 3 big ones. It's getting, people are losing confidence in the election system, and here in Massachusetts, and they just passed the mail-in voting. They made it permanent. That's That's wrong because that requires we have the oldest state constitution in the country, one of the oldest. It's actually the US Constitution is mimicked on our Constitution, and our Constitution defines the way you vote. And it has strict provisions for voting absentee. You have to be out of the country, incapacitated, or a religious holiday. So in order for that to be changed, the legislature has to do what's called a constitutional amendment.
Right.
Now, they got away with it under COVID, right? Because nobody knew what was going on and everyone was scared, and we get that, right? But now they had enough ample time to file a constitutional amendment. A constitutional amendment requires back-to-back votes in legislative sessions and a vote of the people. That would take 3 to 4 years. It would take time. They failed us with that. They usurped the process as lawmakers, and they passed it by a simple majority vote. To add insult to injury, okay? After the November 2020 elections, I am a former postmaster. I know a little bit about the mail system. I was a senior manager for a long time. We decided to talk about, just evaluate again, the process, right? We're just looking at the process. What happened? So we know 4.6 million people were mailed ballot applications in Massachusetts. We know that. We know that 65% of those people voted by mail. It was COVID. Everyone was afraid. We know that, okay? What I want your viewers to know is that hundreds of thousands of those ballot applications that were sent out to so-called eligible voters were returned to sender by the Postal Service because they were undeliverable for one of 25 different reasons. So we knew that information, and so we sat down and developed a series of questions on the process of mail-in voting. We had those questions sent to the Joint Committee on Election Laws. They enhanced those questions and used those questions and sent Secretary Galvin a letter. One of those questions was this: if you had return to sender ballot applications, can you please quantify how many ballot applications were returned and whether or not those people voted? Now, that's a pretty basic question in the Postal Service. It's a basic question. Secretary Galvin refused to answer that question, signaling that it was impossible to answer that question. Now, I want to tell you, I spent a long time in the Postal Service. You count mail in linear footage. There's X amount of pieces in a foot, X amount of pieces in a tray. All he had to do was watch Sesame Street when he was young, count the trays of mail, and do the math and figure out. So why wouldn't he do that? I don't know the man's motivation. However, I can surmise. If he told us how many ballot applications were undeliverable as addressed, it would be a direct correlation to the condition of our voter rolls, right? So we would know, hey, out of the 4.6 million, I'm just picking a number, 600, 700,000 were no good. That's a problem, okay? Not only is it a problem, but there are two federal laws that require the Secretary of State to maintain the voter rolls. One is the Help America Votes Act. The other is the Federal Voter Registration Act of 1993. Now, he has to follow those federal laws. And those federal laws include maintaining our voter rolls, okay? So there are so many unanswered questions from 2020, and I'm going to be blatant with you guys. I am a Republican. I've urged my party to do something about it, do more, look into it. I'm continuing to urge my party to do that. But my campaign is asking questions, and my campaign is putting pressure to find out the answers to some of these basic questions about the process of mail-in voting. We're not here to accuse anyone. We're not here to create a conspiracy or any propaganda whatsoever. We're just asking public records requests that require quantifiable answers because, number one, the people have a right to know. People are losing confidence in our election system, okay? Our election system is designed to take place under the watchful eye of the public. You walk down to your voting booth, I walk down. You say your name to a person. You look at a person. You get your ballot, you walk it over. Our elections are being held in back offices right now. Okay? I have a problem with that. Okay? If there weren't super majorities in the legislature here and we had some balance, we'd be able to have some healthy dialogue. I don't know what's going on in that back office. I know the town clerks and the city clerks are overwhelmed. I know that. I know that when I passed in my signatures to get on the ballot running for Congress, I know that my signatures were scrutinized. I also know that the cities that we asked about the matching of signatures in 2020 told us they didn't match signatures, but they have to look at signatures to put me on the ballot. They have to check those signatures. It's like you have to have the same standard, and it has to be a high standard. And I don't feel that anyone looked at the process thoroughly, independently, and objectively from 2020. And I'm deeply concerned about what's going to happen in 2022. And I'll talk about the other two issues after we talk about that issue.
Anything that seems to be brought up about the 2020 election gets absolutely just deflected by the Democrats. They don't want to hear anything about it. They got what they wanted. They were petulant children who just wanted to. We got what we want. We're not looking into anything. Why would we? And like you said, when you have such an imbalance, Republicans don't really, they can try, but they just can't get anything done until this November when things will change.
You know,
then questions will be asked.
My issue too. I also, this early voting thing, I've always had a problem with early voting because up until the day of the election, I mean, if your candidate, if you've early voted for a candidate and it comes out that they were a mass murderer, how are you going to feel about that early vote you cast? Like, you just never know. Locally here, let's put it this way. Locally here, we had a council president that a lot of people didn't realize what he was, or maybe they did and they were quiet about it. But when they found out his next election, with some help from a couple of friends, he was asked to leave by every precinct in the community. So, you really have to work. I agree with you that I'm not an early voter. I'm not a mail-in voter. It's not that I don't trust the postal service or any of that. I actually like the excitement of going down to the polls and seeing the people standing with the signs, and call me old-fashioned, but I agree with you. The watchful eye. I want, right? I mean, we have poll watchers. We have people who check you in. So I am all about. I will be transparent. I know cheating happens. It happens all the time. It happens every election. People try to cheat. I have always had some trouble with the 2020 election. While I was concerned about it, the numbers are so huge. But my biggest problems, and you hit on it, Carolyn, with the 2020 election was, number one, you had election, forget the name of their titles in the states. The legislatures weren't changing rules in the states. The election secretaries were. That it's supposed to be voted on by the people who were elected by the people. So we can put 2020 in the rearview mirror if we want to compromise to move on this subject, but we've got to talk about how that happened and work backwards and fix that first. Although it's too late, you just said that this is all past, and so mail-in voting is a done deal. But that's what should have happened, in my opinion.
It's called process management, and you have to have a process management review. Now, any material from the last election is only available for 22 months. Right. So come September, that's going to be gone. So I tend to agree with you. I look at 2020 and I say, no one understood what was going on. Everyone was reacting instead of responding. I get it. However, 2022 should not be that way. Look at the day after the election. I think it was November, right after the election. Secretary Galvin was out on a tour saying we have to convert to mail-in voting without any real evaluation of the process. I mean, that's irresponsible from our top election officer in the state. And yet, look at, people go to the hairdresser for 2 hours. People go do things. You go in and vote, you're in and out, okay? And I don't agree with what's going on, unless it can coincide with the checks and balances necessary to give people the confidence. Look at Rasmussen came out with a poll today. It's over 50%, it's close to 60% of people have concerns about election integrity. It's their number one issue. It has to be, because everything's predicated on it. If you don't feel you're having a fair and just election, there are people that think Biden is illegitimate. They have every right to think that. If they live in Massachusetts, they don't really know. Maybe they're watching tonight. Maybe it's the first time that they're hearing that hundreds of thousands of ballots were undeliverable from the Postal Service for bad addresses. Maybe they never knew that before. Maybe they never knew that it requires a constitutional amendment to change the law, but they know now. And one of the main reasons I really wanted to come on your program was because it is local, and I want people to know I'm not here to spread propaganda. I'm not here to be inflammatory. I'm not here to do that. I am here to present to you the facts as I know them, okay, as they've been communicated to me, so that we can hold our government, whether that's town government, state government, or federal government, accountable. Because without the people doing their job, you have to be vigilant. There's liberty comes with a price, and it's called vigilance, and we have to be vigilant, and we're not. We're just saying, okay, and people are busy, they're working. I get it. I was there. I had 3 small kids. I was working full time. So they rely on people like you guys to do the show, to educate them and get them mobilized and motivated so they can go in and not, have the fights and battles, but ask the pertinent questions. The First Amendment was there so that you could bring grievances before your government. That's what it's there for. And people are going to school board meetings saying, sit down and shut up. You're a terrorist. I don't think so. It's wrong.
Well, they got the dander up of parents. To be candid with you, I was just waiting, because to me, look, many of us knew, I'm sure, Carolyn, you were one of them, getting back to the school subject for a minute. We knew March of 2020, 21, right? Or March, forgive me, when we found out we were locked down. That March. By that June, I had been watching BBC. I've been looking overseas and watching the Europeans. I was looking in the middle of the country. I was looking in Florida. By that June, all those places I just cited were going back to school. Those kids were going to school, some masked, some not masked, but they were going in building. Yet you had the East Coast and the left coast out of school, blocked out of school. To me, and we knew the data was very clear who was getting sick. We chose Granny over the kids. That is backwards. That is disgusting. That is wrong. You should be willing to die for the youth, because the youth is the future, no matter whose kids they are. And to me, this was war. Unfortunately, I didn't get my way, but I was willing to go gloves off. I want my kids in that school, and I want them in there now. That's how angry some of us got, and I was just the angriest and least afraid, and I was on an island in a wacko.
Well, let me ask you this. If the schools were closed, wouldn't there be extra money for the heating oil or all the expenses? What about all the COVID money? 9% of those bills that were passed by members of Congress went to COVID. I mean, they were filled with pork. People really needed help. Okay.
Caroline?
If you were a small businessman, you needed help. I know. I grew up in the North End. My friend owns a restaurant there. Okay. She was so strapped for help last summer. She called me up and I went to help her. Okay. And I'm not a spring chicken. Okay. It's hard work. Right. And I went to help her because she couldn't get people to work, hire people, because they were getting benefits continually. Okay. Some people needed those benefits. I get it. Okay. But if you're able-bodied, go to work. Okay. If you're not disabled, go to work, and if the government keeps on disincentivizing work, we have low workforce participation rates. We should all be concerned with that right now. And you have to get government out of the way, and you have to let the private sector thrive. And small businesses are the backbone of the private sector. And so they were crushed. I know, I grew up in the North End. I know a lot of those restaurant owners, they were crushed. And here we are now, and we're hearing, more stories. It's like, no, let people live, let them open their business, let everyone decide what's best for themselves. Let the individual decide. There's personal responsibility, there are personal and individual rights, and government has to get out of the way.
So you bring up COVID money. So this ought to make the people of Winthrop upset. You probably know this as well as anyone. The schools, most of them, I know Winthrop didn't spend all that COVID money on the things it needed to spend it on, whether it was a new heating system, air filtration, whatever it was. They're using, you're going to hear different. Maybe you won't, but the people of Winthrop watching will hear different. I'm lying. I'm not lying. Budgets are fungible. We still have COVID money. They're going to spend it. What they're going to do is move that COVID money into the lines that it's approved for, and then take the money from those lines that it's approved for and use it to fund a raise. Essentially, using COVID money to fund a raise. Okay? That money, to your point, should be going to everybody in the community who tolerated our kids being locked out of school, us having to find ways to work in our homes while our kids were going crazy. The kids who locally, by the way, the over 24 kids, from my understanding, that were institutionalized because their already existing problems were exacerbated by COVID. That's where that money should go. And I'm saying this, and I mean it. I know in those buildings in our town, I know we've got some wonderful people in there who are afraid to open up and step aside and get away from that evil teachers union. But that evil teachers union needs to pay. And the people who didn't step up, I'm sorry, afraid or not, you're all culpable. Raises should not even be on the table, yet they are.
Well, that COVID money is contingent. And, this is what I mean about looking back. Okay. Money, whether it's grant money, it's contingent. It has to be spent in a certain way. I got a letter from my town too, saying there were millions of dollars. How should we spend it? I had one answer for them. Give it back.
Right.
Okay. Give it back. The money that was pushed into the system by government, the government printing presses, okay, is what caused all of this inflation. Now, some of that money was necessary. Again, nobody knew. People were afraid. You have to take care of people.
That's
okay.
Right.
However, it's time to move forward. It is time to move forward and incentivize work again, and incentivize small business growth again. Look at the Inflation Reduction Act. Okay, so-called misnomer of a name, hires 87,000 new IRS agents. I will tell you this, small businesses and middle-class families will suffer. It's almost heartless, okay? Even if I'm not a big tax and spend person, but even if you are, it's heartless to do that, okay? People are just getting back on their feet again, okay? And they're hit with high gas prices. They're hit with high energy prices, okay? And you're going to hire, these people are so out of touch with the average working class family in Massachusetts and in this country. You can't even rationalize that move. And I hope Congresswoman Clark is watching. And small business is the backbone of the private sector.
There we go.
Sorry.
Got the message across twice.
Get lost. I want Congresswoman Clark to advocate against hiring these 87,000 IRS workers that will crush small business and middle-class families. I'm asking sincerely. Look, I may be a tough campaigner, but I'm a human being, and I don't want this to happen. And it's really going to be problematic in Massachusetts. We have a huge small business community here, huge. And I don't know that she really understands the impacts of that, or she's really thought it through enough. So I want to make an appeal to her too this evening. Even though I'm running against her, I still reach out to her, and I'm still a constituent, and I still reach out to her, and I still try to persuade her and ask her to change her mind, about things. I don't want to always be the kind of person that's, pointing out, what I disagree with. I want to also urge her to change her mind. And you guys actually should invite her on your show. You should invite her and talk with her.
Would love to.
Absolutely.
Be great for ratings.
No, and we get some answers. It's amazing. Everything you just talked about, Caroline, everything you just talked about makes total sense. Even one of the listeners commented in, it's about time to hear someone with common sense speak out about everyday issues that matter to all of us. So with that said, there's average people out there that they just take it. And this is just my opinion. They just take it and they say, yep, I'm a Democrat. Yep. And I've said this before, it's almost like they suffer from Stockholm syndrome. They've been kept so long that now they just agree with their captors and they empathize with their captors. It doesn't make any sense to me to see all this going on and then they still go along because they're getting hurt too. The Democrat citizens, the citizens that vote Democrat, they're getting hurt just as much as everybody else in the state. And
I think you might
don't see it.
Be surprised. Well, we door knocked in that heat on Saturday. We did not door knock Republican doors.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
We door knocked middle of the road, average American people. I can tell you that I see a change in people's attitudes towards voting. Okay, they may have been a Democrat voter and they may even agree with some of the policies, but this year, they're not enthusiastic about voting Democrat and they're up for grabs. Yeah. Those people are grabbed in Massachusetts. That's a big chunk of people. And all we're doing, and this shows like this really help, you have a chance to talk about the issues, the water bill, just whatever issue it is, and get it out there. Part of the problem that I have, and by the way, I'm not alone. This is not only about me. Every Republican candidate running for Congress, the press does not cover the candidates. No. And they make it really difficult for the candidates to get their matches. Now, not all of the press. Some of the press is very good, but the majority of the press, and we email the press about where we're going to be. We talk to the press. We send press releases out. We do those things. That's what campaigns do. And they're just not interested. And that, to me, it's sad because I think this election isn't about a Democrat or Republican. It's really about you. I mean, the country's hanging on a thread, and you have to decide what's right for you, not what your buddy who has a connection to this person tells you, or not for this benefit, but you have to think about how is this going to affect you, Democrat? And they're up, a connection to this person tells you.
What are you doing, Todd? Sorry, Caroline. It's his first day on the job.
We'll be door knocking in Winthrop, and I will let you know. I love getting feedback at the doors from people and talking to them, even if they disagree with me. I welcome it because sometimes I need my mind changed, too. I have to listen to both sides. And so when we door knock in Winthrop, I'll give you the feedback from Winthrop. I see a lot of police signs in Winthrop when I drive around. I'm at Bell Island. I love the lobster roll at Bell Island Seafood. Like I said, we have an event there next Monday. What I'm likely going to do is door knock before that event because I'll be in Winthrop. I'll beat the traffic out there. There's one way in and one way out, right?
Two.
And the other two issues are equally important, inflation and the border. I was at a gas station in Waltham a few weeks ago doing a voter registration drive. And we registered 12 people in like an hour to vote that were just mad. Well, they were filling up for gas. And there were people there, that were affected by fentanyl and have lost family. And, to ignore the border when it comes to fentanyl is, that's a big piece of the puzzle. We had 100,000 people die in this country over the last year with everything, the lockdowns, the border, the fentanyl. In Massachusetts, 2,000 overdose deaths. And to add to that statistic, gentlemen, Middlesex County, where I'm running and where Congresswoman Clark is in office, has a disparate amount of overdoses compared to other counties. Okay, so the fentanyl comes in, maybe it goes to Lawrence. That's what they're indicating, but it's distributed, throughout the area. And the people of Lawrence are very concerned about this. I've spoken to them. People don't always understand where are you running, what district. They're very concerned. And so the border is a big piece of that. Now, as members of Congress, you take an oath. I take an oath on the select board. Governor takes an oath to uphold the Constitution. And I would once again urge Congresswoman Clark, I would urge her to reconsider her oath and to uphold the Constitution with respect to the border. I met Tom Homan, the former director of ICE. I talked with him. 31%. I can't repeat the stories. Your heart would break as a parent, as a human being, if I tell you the stories that he told me about the torture being done to people from the cartels. 31% of women and young girls, young children crossing the border are sexually assaulted. Okay, the cartels that people pay to cross into our country illegally. When it's time for the cartels to collect their payment, the cartel will say to the person, call your family, we need our money. The person would call their family and the cartel said, it's not 5,000 anymore. It's 10,000. It's 15,000. And it was reported to me that they would kill that family member with the other family member on the line because the family couldn't re-up for the payment. Now, you want to talk about humane, Congresswoman Clark? Hearing your loved one die because the ante was upped and your family can't pay it and they were smuggled in with the cartels? Do your job, Congresswoman Clark. I'm asking you, as a mother, do your job. Urge President Biden to secure that border and Secretary Mayorkas to secure that border so that the cartels can stop exploiting women and children, sexually assaulting women and children, and we can stop the fentanyl from coming into this country. It's a huge problem in Massachusetts.
I'm a retired U.S. Customs and Border Protection officer, and I have friends down on the border that work, not Border Patrol, Customs and Border Protection. So they're the ones that work the immigration, they work the drugs, the whole aspect of it. K-9. And I have a friend who just retired from headquarters in D.C. from CBP. And to a person, they just shake their head and say they're political animals. All their bosses are just all political animals. They're doing what they're told from the administration, and they just watch it happen. Just watch it happen. They can say all they want that drug seizures are up and human smuggling is down. It's not. Neither. It's the opposite for both.
What about the truck? What about the truckload?
Yeah.
Of dead people? Of dead people. They were dead. It was unbelievable.
Stripped their clothes off. A child clinging to the neck of his father, naked.
So sick.
Suffocated to death in that truck. Where was the public outcry from members of Congress? How do you sleep at night? It bothers me. It wakes me up at night. It bothers me. Okay. I can't imagine brushing that off. Congresswoman Clark, no public statement on that. No press release on that. There are between 20 and 30,000 border agents. They want to hire 87,000 IRS auditors.
There's a reason. Yeah.
Where's the priority here? I'm just an average person. I just believe in common sense. The hypocrisy is beyond understanding. This type of hypocrisy, if voters need to wake up, they need to strongly consider this election is going to determine the fate of the country. Okay. And they really need to find out what's going on.
Catherine, this is $1 million question for you. It's 2026. You're in Congress. A bill comes before you that will put term limits on you guys? Do you vote yourself a term limit?
Yes. And
I don't even, you don't need
wait
to say another word to me.
no, wait a minute. As a select woman, I drafted a warrant article, which is a local law at the town level, to limit select people from being there more than 6 years. While I was a sitting select woman, I filed that bill. It didn't pass, it didn't make it through, but it should have made it through, because whether it's the town, whether it's the state, and especially Congress, if you don't improve that political gene pool, you're going to get the same type of ideologues there as you guys mentioned earlier, for their own benefit, enriching themselves. Why do members of Congress become millionaires? Once over, twice over, 3 times over, 4 times over.
Ask Nancy and her husband.
Look at their reports. Look at who's donating to these people. Okay? I mean, go to FEC and look at your congressperson and look at who's donating. It's very clear. These people, their votes are tainted by the special interest groups that fund their campaign coffers. Okay, I don't take special interest money. I've never taken special interest money, and I don't take special interest money because you have to remain independent. You know, when I was a select person, I never had to worry about crossing the street, that I was going to face someone that I lied to, or someone that I misled, or that I never promised people jobs. I just didn't do those things. I governed effectively for the betterment of my community. These people are there enriching themselves. And Congress, there are a lot of people in Congress. It looks really bad. They look corrupt to a lot of us. And so if you don't have term limits, you have no system, no way of flushing those people out of the system, and getting better people in there that aren't motivated by money or fame, or, I'm sorry to say it, like Congresswoman Clark. I mean, you know, she's there raising her national political profile because she wants to be speaker. So she has to do what she's told. She can't say, wait a minute, time out. Like I used to say, wait a minute, time out. You know, I'm not agreeing with you on this. Let's talk about this. But you can't even do that. You have to vote lockstep and barrel with Pelosi and Biden. And that's not good for her to be under all that pressure personally. And it's certainly not good for the district. And it doesn't benefit the people. But that's what we have in Congress. They're told how to vote. And now they can vote proxy. They don't even have to be in D.C.
Yeah, that's insane. They can vote proxy.
It's like, go to work and vote and have that debate and dialogue, you know, in Congress, on Capitol Hill. Have that debate going back and forth. Have those wheels turning and let the public see that Congress actually, do you think anyone reads these bills? 750-page bill. Do you think they read these bills? We have to pass it and read it later. No. You have to read it, understand it.
They're too busy counting their investments. You know, I want to quickly go back to one thing about, you said you're going to go door knocking, right? For your fundraiser here. And I just want to touch on something that I think matters and why we're having such trouble. Because in Winthrop here, you know, there's a few families, if you will, that have, there's a few families here that have a lot of political clout. They bring a lot of votes. One in particular, I had a brief conversation with. I asked him to check you out. Okay. He's very well connected politically. I don't mean that way, by the way. I meant check you out, who you are politically. He knows who he is. He may or may not watch. Sometimes he does, whatever. I'm sure this will get back to him. He's very well connected. He knows a lot of people. He's had governors, candidates running over his house. I just asked him to look at you. And his response to me was, like most people, Mass 5 is not a race, is what he said. And no one's paying attention to it. And I don't say that to be insulting to you. I say that to be insulting to him, because he positions himself as this fair-minded individual, yet he won't even speak to you. I mean, he could change the direction of Winthrop very easily with, you know, if he could convince, right? And all we need is one of him in every community, or maybe the bigger communities, you need a couple. But the point being, at least listen. Because for God's sakes, what you're voting for is only if it's good for him, which it may very well be, because he's connected, but it's not good for our community. It's not serving everybody to just not listen to the competition. Doesn't make sense.
Well, Massachusetts has the least amount of legislative competitive races in the country.
Yeah.
So 3 out of 4 people have one name on that ballot. Now, I believe in the election system. I believe that every voter should have 2 people's names on that ballot to choose from. That's the American way. And I'm not afraid to challenge Congresswoman Clark. I don't think anyone should be afraid or intimidated to run for office. They are. The reality is that they are. But if people aren't open-minded, if voters aren't open-minded and they look at this race and they write it off, they're writing off their state, they're writing off their family, and they're writing off their country. And, imagine if David said, you know what, Goliath, big guy, has the armor, I don't know. I mean, no one wants to fight this guy. David was doing something else. And he was delivering food to his brothers who were really fighting. And he said, you know what? Let me challenge the giant. And he did. And after David won, you know how the story goes, cut his head off and carried it around town. Now, that's not right. I'm not, advocating for that. But I am saying that I believe I have a chance to win this race.
Yeah.
I believe that people are waking up. I've been door knocking. I've been talking to people. And they're not Republicans, okay? So I believe I have a chance. And I believe that if there's going to be a year, this is going to be the year. And so I have the positive attitude about my campaign. I've discussed many ideas with you tonight. I have so many more ideas on different things, people that commit crimes with masks, so many different things that are, I guess, getting under my skin. People go commit a crime with the mask on. If it's a federal crime, I got a problem with that.
Right.
You get a mask on, it's to be for your health. You're going to go commit a crime with the mask on so we can't identify you? You want to go smash up a store and we can't identify who you are? No, I have a problem with that. And I'm a firm believer in consequences for actions. Look, everyone deserves a chance, okay? People that hurt children, got to protect children from people that will hurt them. You have to do that. If you allow that in society, you will have chaos. You have to do that. You have to protect our seniors, right? You have to do that. They're vulnerable. Respect those that served in our military. We have to honor our police and our fire, okay? These are things basic. They're parts of our American culture, parts of our American society. They're flipping all this upside down right now, okay? And I empathize with a lot of these different groups because they're reaching out to me and they're telling me, hey, Caroline, you know what? I'm voting for you this year. I didn't vote for you before, but I'm voting for you because I realize if you go back and you look at some of the things that I've said, they've all happened. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist, but you have to be able to read the political tea leaves and understand these people right now that are lowering gas prices, we should not be thanking them. Gas is still $2 higher than it was by the office. But what they're doing is they're lulling people into getting them into a comfortable place to vote for them. And as soon as you vote for them, you know what the best indicator of future behavior is? Your past behavior. They had a razor-thin majority. Look what they did to the country. Look at what we're facing right now. Can't even afford to live in Massachusetts. Fentanyl coming in our border. Record high inflation. My son's energy bill was $600. My son just bought a house. I said, son, it's good. So they have a slim majority. This was their litmus test to govern with a little bit of balance, right? With the slim majority, a little bit of compromise. I worked with 4 Democrats on the select board. I didn't fight every night when I went to work. I did my job. They can't get beyond that because they are ideologues and they have a preconceived notion. And not only that, this really bothers me. I don't want to impose my views on anyone, regardless of what my views are. I want to, what we're doing tonight, talk about the issues and let you decide. They want to impose their views and their political will on you. You're not a person, you're like a sheep to them. And they want to impose it on you. And when you don't fall in line, they want to make you suffer and punish you, whether that's at the pump, whether that's at a school board meeting. I don't agree with that. I think that is wrong. And that's what they've demonstrated in less than 2 short years.
Yep.
And I think people are fed up, and I think they're ready for change. So while I am an underdog, I've been an underdog before. It's good to be an underdog. You have everything to gain and really nothing to lose, if you think about it.
And you get this. That's right. Absolutely right. Well, we have, this is a small show, but they didn't think we were going to last. We had all the detractors at the beginning. How many views do you have? Now, the thing about live streaming, and I've said this before, live streaming isn't about the active views. It's the after views. A lot of people look at live streaming like it's TV. It's the after views because it's there. It stays on the site, the page, the group page after it's recorded. Not everybody can tune in Monday nights at 8 o'clock to watch this. We'll get people to watch tonight. Overnight, there'll probably be 100 views just from people watching throughout the town. We're averaging about anywhere from 300. I think we've hit 700 views a week, right? So there's 300 to 700 potential voters, 300 to 700 people who look at what we're doing and say, wow, I'm going to keep watching this.
It's actually more than that. It's actually more than that because a lot of people don't click on the vids. Go ahead.
Right. So we technically have moved the needle in Winthrop, and we're going to try to move it in your direction. That's just how I look at it. I don't see why we wouldn't. It's a small show. It's a small live stream, but you're welcome to come on anytime you want. If you have something to say, just let us know. Let Todd know. You have an open door to come on anytime you want.
Well, I just appreciate both you gentlemen giving us the opportunity to just have a conversation about the issues. It doesn't have to be, full of negativity and attacks. I mean, I appeal to Congresswoman Clark often. I sincerely appeal to her because I don't want to see things continue to go in this direction. And I just appreciate the fact that we can talk about things and people can listen in and they can decide for themselves. They can say, I think she's full of it. I don't agree with her. They have the right to say that. I don't obviously want that. I have a record. It's out there. I was on the city council for 2 terms, 6 years. I have a lot of votes. I have a record. It's out there. So politicians that come on your show that are always telling you in the future tense, I'm going to, I at least can point back to my record and say, hey, this is what I did at the local level. This is important to me. Serving my community was important to me. Serving as a member of Congress is very important to me. And I know it's important to you guys. And I know it's going to be important to your viewers. And I want them also to know that we're revamping our website up. It's probably going to be ready by the end of this week. We're going to have a lot more content on it. And they can go to Colarusso, Cola like Coca-Cola, C-O-L-A, Russo, R-U-S-S-O, Colarusso, F-O-R, Congress.com. They can contact me. They can ask me a question. I will talk and go out and speak to anyone, whether it's a kitchen table, whether it's a coffee hour, whether it's in a local restaurant. I will talk to anyone. I love fielding questions. I have no inhibitions about what I believe or any of my policies. As you can tell, I'm pretty straightforward about things. There's no need to talk at this level. People just want to pay less for gas, keep more of their money in their pocket, and have control over their kids in school. They'll be fine if you just, kind of leave them alone, let them live their lives. That's been my philosophy for many, many years. That is my philosophy. I really do feel like I have a special place in my heart for Winthrop because of the Pedotos, my cousins, because of going there so much. So I have a fondness for Winthrop. Many of the communities in the district I have ties to, some I don't. But Winthrop is special to me, so I really do appreciate the time. that you guys afforded me this evening, and the fairness of the questions, and just your honest and forthright opinions on things. I really appreciate hearing them.
Does she ever respond to you?
I just sent her a letter challenging her to debates, 5 of them, because I think this election is going to warrant that many to get. Well, look, we were on for an hour and 15 minutes, and we maybe got through 4 or 5 issues. So I think that, based on the condition of the country, I've asked for 5. I'm hoping that she will do 5, but I don't believe in forcing her. It's going to be her free will if she wants to do the debates. If not, I'm going to do the debates by myself, and I'm going to go to different communities, and I'm going to just take the questions from the people, because if she's not willing to debate 5 times with this important of an election, I'm not sure she's, deserves the seat. She should be answering to the voters. Just like I'll go on anyone's show that asks me and answer questions. It's actually fun, and it gets my point of view out there. So I'm pleased to do it. And I think she should do it in the district, face to face, in front of the voters. I mean, I think that's really going to be important. So I'm hoping that she responds. And we gave her, I think, until I believe maybe a few more days, because we want to try to schedule them in different parts of the district. Like maybe we can get one out your way. We're actually trying to get one in Winthrop, actually trying to get one there. So maybe you guys can host it. Who knows?
Would love to. Would love to. Well, Carolyn, we thank you for coming on. I thought you gave us some great answers, and I thought you gave us some good information. I think you are brave to answer the question that you'd vote. Well, not brave. Forget that. Smart. I think most Americans, if they could hear you and could vote for you, they would. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of cachet, but you can share this. So please share this out. Share it everywhere you can, everywhere you want to, on your page, everywhere.
We have a YouTube channel. It's Winthrop Votes, the YouTube channel. So you can pull it off that if you want.
Yeah.
I had put at the bottom of the screen, I hope it's correct, if someone wants to volunteer to help your campaign, because I checked out your website earlier and there was a tab for volunteer. So it would be they go to ColaRussoForCongress.com.
They can volunteer. They can contact us. As I said, we're making some major enhancements. It's getting a big facelift. I didn't tell you guys at the beginning, but we got in the race just in the nick of time, and we're really ramping things up. So that website's going to be really nice. We're making some really cool enhancements, and you'll be able to look at that website, and every topic that we discussed is going to be addressed, and you'll be able to see my platform. So you'll know when you look at that website, hey, I agree with her. I don't agree with her. This is what she stands for. There won't be any question about what I stand for.
And you have all the privilege to use any video from this live stream, which we usually don't do that. But you can use any clips you want from this live stream. We give you permission to put it on your website. Whatever we can do to help you out. Thank
you so much. Thanks for the really good substantive questions, and the company tonight on a Monday night, on a hot and humid night. We're in nice, cool air conditioning here, so it was fun.
Right.
It's hotter up there than it was down here in Boca today.
Yeah.
So, all right, Caroline. Well, like I said, feel free to use our video, YouTube video. The Winthrop Votes, this is going to be up. I'm going to run this probably 4 more times this week at different times, different nights, different times, so everybody gets a shot at looking at it. And again, open door policy. You just let Todd know, and we will squeeze. No matter what we have, you can bump them. How's that? We give you the bump privilege.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for the opportunity.
You got it. And we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. Well, there you go. That was episode 50, buddy. That was our 50th episode.
And I thought an epic one, given the fact that I heard a candidate for Congress actually say, I would vote myself for term limit.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So episode 50 in the books, buddy. They said we couldn't make it. They said we didn't have what it takes.
We're just willing our way in.
We chip away at the stone. We chip away at the stone, and we get better all the time. And you know, we like I said, we're moving the needle. We're getting a little bit of attention. You know, it's not like we're struggling for content.
No.
You know, and people we've already had. So what? We've had a Massachusetts state rep come on, and we had a candidate for
Congress,
for U.S. Congress come on, and we've had the local. We got to get Jim Lettieri back on.
He keeps saying he wants to come back on.
He better stop ducking, or
he better stop.
We're gonna start turning. We're gonna start pinning that needle again.
He's got to get the word out about some of the things he's done. You know, I mean, I've said it a bunch of times out here that this OCR, the commission was great. I mean, there's some people that disagree with that, and that's fine. But overall, it was a good commission. It was well thought out, and there's some good things that hopefully they'll put forward to the community to vote on.
Absolutely.
But I think tonight too proved that even with, you know, the local level, if people watch this and pay attention, you'll see that your local voting efforts do have national impact. It's just much more important to stop getting involved in the fights at the federal level and getting fake arrested to protest Roe v. Wade when it doesn't matter a lick in your state. Doesn't matter. It's settled. It's settled here. Let's vote on things we need. Anyway.
All right, buddy.
Yeah.
Take us out.
So everybody on Winthrop votes, like we always say, all politics starts at the local level. Don't forget it. Share it. Enjoy it. Thank you again. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week.
Like I always say, thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. Thank you for liking and sharing. You are the engine that runs this machine. If it wasn't for you, it'd just be me talking to Todd. And you already heard that. So, I mean, we already heard that. And we'll see you guys next Monday night. Share this. Like it. Share it. Do whatever you got to do.
Get it out.